Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for stopping by today. I got my buddy here, Don, the great Sootch 00.
The great.
And we're going to talk about some guns today, answer a bunch of your questions, and anything that you've got, any kind of firearms related question, life related question, whatever you have. We are also unlicensed therapists, so we can tell you pretty much anything that you want to hear.
A little recoil therapy is always good.
Recoil therapy, it'll fix almost anything. That's a fact. Well, let's kind of jump into some of the questions that we have in here early, and we'll just talk about a little bit of the stuff that we have. So I've got a question from Chris Matthews. He says, "Hey Robbie, hope you're well. I was trying to find recoil springs for a Shield 9mm and an XDS Model 2 9mm. There are none to be found on either Smith & Wesson or Springfield's website. I tell you, one of the best places that I've found to find recoil springs is Wolf Gun Springs.
Yeah.
Wolf is an excellent resource for many different firearm springs that you need, from recoil springs, trigger springs. They've got a huge assortment of springs available. So I would check them out. If anybody has a spring for it, it would be Wolf. And I've got a question here from David Frost. And David says, "Hey, Robbie, I'm torn between the Magpul Hunter Edition Savage 6.5 Creedmoor with a 22-inch barrel versus the Savage Tactical 24-inch barrel rifle. I can get either for about $699. Which one is better?" And David, it really comes down to barrel length. You're going to get a little more muzzle velocity with a 24-inch over the 22-inch. I would look at weight as being a factor. Also, how far you're planning on shooting the rifle. If you're only planning on shooting out to 600, 700, 800 yards, or even 1,000, the 22-inch barrel is fine for 1,000. The 24-inch barrel is fine for 1,000. Big consideration is if you're going to put a muzzle brake on it, you're going to add length to the barrel. If you're going to put a suppressor on it, you're going to add length to the barrel. So anytime I'm adding accessories to the muzzle, I always try and go as short as I possibly can that will still allow me to reach the maximum distance that I'm trying to achieve. So I would kind of let that and weight be your deciding factors. If it was mine personally, it would be the 22-inch. The majority of my Creedmoors that I have are built in 22-inch, and I found that to be more than adequate out to 1,000 yards. Let's see what else we've got in here. D. Harden says, "Hello and good morning from Oklahoma Panhandle. What is a good scope for a 30-06? It really depends on your budget. But me personally, I really like the optics from Primary Arms. I know we're both a huge fan of the Primary Arms optics. They're 4x14 by 44 with an R-grid reticle is a really good scope, and they're around $300. And illuminated reticles, the R-grid reticle that's in it, first focal plane target turrets. I mean, it's a lot of bang for your buck. And that is somebody's looking for a good scope that's not going to bust their budget. That is always what I recommend.
Yeah, I'm finding though that like Burris is really coming out with some really nice quality glass. The big thing is the glass.
And who's the parent company of Burris?
Steiner.
Yes,
Steiner. Also, a lot of the Leupold scopes, especially the higher end.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to get the low end, I would go with Primary Arms. It'll save you money. It's really good quality glass. A lot of their optics have Japanese glass in them.
Mm-hmm.
So especially their Platinum series. So again, it's just really according to budget, what you're doing as far as, where you're shooting. If like in the desert, a lot of times it's a lot of just blending in. So it's kind of nice to have a good clarity of your glass. I found out that using a decent scope one time. It was a Leatherwood Hilux, I believe. And I was trying to hit this target at 300 yards, and a guy handed me an ACOG, which is 4 power.
Yep.
And I could see it all of a sudden. So the glass really makes a big difference. So take the budget you have and spend as much as you can, but compare it with Primary Arms because they are putting out some really good quality glass.
I agree with that completely. Glass clarity, optic clarity, and then light gathering, the F factor of the optic, how much light it pulls in if you're going to use it for a hunting scope, will give you, the higher the F factor will give you more ability to be able to shoot early in the morning and late in the evening, just before sunrise and just after sunset. So always try and look at the F factor of the glass if you're using it for a hunting optic as well. Chris Matthews says, "Hey, Robbie and Mr. Dunn." Mystery. I'm not a mystery yet.
He's the gunsmith. I'm the assembler. I'm here for the easy questions.
Oh. D. Harden says, "Okay, thanks, guys." Collie Roberts says, "Hey, the Rock Island 10mm double stack A2 can barely rack it. What do you suggest?" Most of those guns are going to have a really, really heavy recoil spring in it. 22 to 24 pounds on the recoil spring. And then also you're going to have a 22 to 24 pound firing pin spring or mainspring in the gun. I normally reduce my mainspring down to 17 pounds. That's going to help out a lot. The recoil spring on the gun, you can run an 18 pound or a 20 pound. It kind of depending on the loads you're using. If you're using predominantly target loads, 180 grain or 200 grain stuff, an 18 pound spring is more than adequate with a 17 pound mainspring in the gun. You're not going to beat the gun up, wear anything out quickly. If you're shooting a little bit of Underwood or some of your really hot plus P stuff in the 10mm, I would probably go with a 20 pound or a 22 pound spring, just so you don't beat the gun up. But if you're only using that intermittently, or if you're using it just as a defensive load and you're not really shooting it, stick with an 18 pound spring. It's going to help lighten things up quite a bit and make that slide a lot easier to rack.
You remember those Delta Elites when they first came out? They had the
yes.
double recoil springs, and my gosh, I mean, it was like
you'd have to phone a friend to help you rack the slide. These things were awful.
They were awful.
Chris Matthews, how often would you change out the gas rings, and where is a good place to get some? Good source for gas rings has always been Brownells. I've used them for years. They're a military supplier for a lot of parts. So check out Brownells, get your gas rings from them. I tend to stay away from the spiral lock gas rings, the one-piece gas rings. I've seen a lot of issues with them over the years. I've had a lot better performance and a lot more reliability with the 3-ring system. So I always recommend the 3-ring over the spiral lock rings.
How often do you change it? It's according to how much you shoot, though, I guess.
It does.
Really is.
Realistically, you should be changing those out about every 3,000 rounds. And a quick test you can do with your bolt carrier group to see if your gas rings are wearing. Pull the bolt out of the carrier as far as it'll go, and stand it up on the table. If the gas rings will hold the bolt up on the table, the gas rings are still good. If you set it down on the table and the bolt carrier collapses on top of the bolt, the rings are worn out and need to be replaced. So that's just a quick and dirty little tip that you can use to check those, without running into cycling issues. You can get ahead of it. Chris Matthews, can you do a video on how to mount a scope or a LPVO if you haven't already? That's actually something that I've got coming up, is how to properly mount a scope. And I do it a little bit differently than a lot of people do. I don't use all the bubble levels and shims and things that you stick in the end of your barrel and guides and grids and all of that. I don't do any of that. That stuff is way, way too complicated for me. I like to simplify things and really dumb it down to the easiest, most efficient possible way that I can do things. So just to kind of give you a heads up on how I do it, I use a one-piece scope rail, and I go to the auto parts store and I get a big thick pack of feeler gauges, and I'll put feeler gauges under my scope on top of the one-piece rail. There's a flat spot where your elevation and windage adjustments are. There's a flat spot there. Put your rings on, snug your rings down just enough where you can still turn the scope a little bit. Put feeler gauges between the scope base and the bottom of the scope, and until you get it to where it's a dead fit. You can barely rock it back and forth, and try and go up. Try and use your big feeler gauges first, and save your 1,000th and 2,000th feeler gauges for your final adjustments. Once you get it exactly where you want it, snug your caps down, pull the feeler gauges out, and it will be dead level to the Picatinny rail on top of your scope, on top of your rifle.
So even if the room you're in is not level.
That's right. That's right, because you're leveling the optic to the mount itself, which is the best possible way to do it. So if the manufacturer drilled your screws and they're offset to one side or the other, you're kind of SOL. But you normally don't see that. Normally the screws are drilled perpendicular to the receiver. Everything's parallel and lined up like it's supposed to be. And when you put those feeler gauges in there and level it out, you'll have a perfectly level scope every time. You won't have to question it. Now, the thing you may have to question is once you get it leveled and tightened down, when you put the rifle up on your shoulder has kind of a cant to it right here. The rifle doesn't fit perfectly straight up and down. So when a lot of people shoulder a rifle, it's in the cant in their shoulder. So the rifle is canted just a little bit. And you'll think that your reticle is not square, but it's not the reticle. It's actually the rifle being canted while it's in your shoulder. JJ Griffin says, thumbs up, boys. Thumbs up to you, JJ. Thanks for watching, bud. David 8719 says, I'm a lefty. Me too. Can I put a safety on a 1911? Only on one side instead of an ambi. So far as I know, no one makes a single side safety for a 1911 for lefties, other than the ambis. Now, one option that you do have is to mill the pad flat on the left side. That way it's out of the way, and you've still got the activation part there, but the safety itself, the arm would be gone. So that would be about the only option that you have for that.
Yeah, because the activation of the safety, that's just an extension on the left. So you got to have at least that part.
That's right. Yeah, the engagement portion is actually on the left side, on the safety where it engages the sear. So you have to have that little paddle piece on the side of the frame there that goes into the frame and engages the sear. JJ Griffin says, reload ammo for competition, light bullet, hot charge, or heavy bullet, light charge. JJ, this one it really kind of comes down to personal preference, what you're looking for in the feel that you want out of the firearm. When I first started shooting competitively 20-something years ago, I liked a heavy bullet with a really fast burning powder. And it gave me more of a push on the gun and a lot less snap. The further along in my competitive shooting career that I got, I tended to move away from that and move more toward a lighter bullet with a faster burning powder that gave me a quick little snap, and the gun recovered a lot quicker. I noticed with the fast burning powder and a heavy bullet, the gun felt spongy or mushy, and I almost felt like I was waiting on the sights sometimes to drift back into the notch. And with the fast powder and a lighter bullet, the gun seemed to recover a lot quicker during the recoil impulse. It was harsher in the hand, but it recovered quicker, and I could pick the sights up faster for follow-up shots. So, that's one of those things that is, depending on where you are with your shooting ability right now, you may end up transitioning away from the heavier bullets and the fast powders to a lighter bullet with a fast powder. But either way, I still prefer a faster burning powder. I think the faster burning powder, you get less recoil with a faster powder than you do with a slower burning powder. You're using less volume, less powder.
Right.
So, like some of your really fast stuff like Universal Clays or Vitivori N320. There's a lot of those powders, the guys that shoot USPSA and IDPA use those powders for their 9mm and their 40 calibers if they're shooting major. Not so much for major 9. You have to go with a slower burning powder for that. But for your traditional loads that most people would use in their handguns, the faster burning powders tend to give you a quick snap, and the sights recover really quickly. So I would suggest, try and get a pound of a few different powders, some of the faster burning stuff, and try some bullet weights. If you're shooting 9mm, your 115s, your 125s, your 147s, and then some of the coated bullets that go up to 160 grains for 9mm. Overall length, I tend to load my stuff as long as I can load it. That'll still fit in the magazine. So most pistols, 1.150, 1.155 will fit in the majority of your magazines, with the exception of some of the CZs. Some of the CZs you have to load a little shorter. But for most firearms other than CZs, that's a good overall length that you can use that works really well. So I did bring out a few things today that that I wanted to show you guys. It's going to be a limited run that we'll have up on our website. And we've got some of our new triggers here. Put it up here. Maybe you can see it. I should probably have grabbed a different color. That silver's not showing up well at all.
Yeah, that's the bronze.
Yep. The bronze with a red safety. And then here's the black with a red safety. We've got the silver with the red, and then the gold with the red. So those will be up on the website later on today. If there's any of you out there that's looking for, kind of a limited edition trigger for your pistol, something that's a little different that nobody else has, we'll have those up on our website, wheatonarms.com, later on today. You guys can check that out.
And those are for Glock.
They are for Glock.
And they're 3 and 4?
Gen 1 through 4. Yep, Gen 1 through 4s.
They're great triggers. Absolutely great triggers.
And a lot of people ask me about when they buy a trigger, what the trigger pull weight's going to be when they replace their trigger and trigger bar. And the trigger and trigger bar, it doesn't really affect the pull weight, maybe a quarter pound or just a little more than that. The big thing that the trigger and trigger bar does is it completely changes the geometry of the shoe and how your finger fits on the trigger. And then it also smooths everything out. So you don't have the plastic shoe that flexes when you pull it. You don't have that safety on the factory Glock triggers that dig into your finger. Our safety's depressed flush in the trigger shoe. So it gives you a much more comfortable shoe for your finger to go on. And then everything on the trigger bar is mirror polished. So you get a really smooth function inside the gun as you're pulling the trigger. And they tend to shorten the reset on the guns as well. If you're wanting to lighten the trigger pull weight on your pistol, I normally recommend going with like our trigger pull kit number 1. That's a 3.5 pound reduced connector and then an extra power trigger return spring. And that's going to help to reduce your trigger pull down to 3.5 to 4 pounds without doing anything else other than just dropping the parts in.
Which is easy enough.
It is. It's very simple. So, and I've got some videos up that walk you through the process, how to install everything, and safety checks, which are very important.
Right.
Always, anytime you're altering your trigger mechanism, you always want to do safety checks.
Right. Because that disconnect, that thing can sometimes not work right. It doesn't connect right.
It can. That's right. There can be, tolerance stacking between, from frame to frame, different frame manufacturers, especially some of the 80% stuff, some of the aftermarket Glock style frames that are out there. There can be tolerance stacking with it, where you don't have enough cruciform to striker engagement. So you always want to check those things and make sure that you've got enough engagement and that your striker safety in the slide, when you pull the trigger to the rear, that the safety stops the trigger before it reaches the striker safety.
Right.
That's not being depressed. That when you pull the trigger to the rear and the safety engages, that the cruciform on the trigger bar is still sitting on top of the drop shelf in the ejector housing, and you can't push the cruciform down. It should stay in place.
Right.
So a lot of little things that you need to look at that a lot of people aren't aware of when they buy aftermarket parts. Like, oh, I'll just throw it in my gun, it'll be fine. I'll take it out and shoot it. And 99 times out of 100, it is. But,
yeah, I've never had one that hasn't worked, but I've seen where people have had them that didn't work.
Yep. Yeah. So there's always a potential that with tolerance stacking that things don't line up right, and you always need to check that and be aware of how to check all of those things.
Right.
So what's a new toy that you've been playing with lately?
I have the new Beretta A300 Ultra Patrol.
Yeah,
that is a fantastic shotgun. Got coming up the new Canic MC, this small micro compact. Yep. It's coming. Should have it, and been working on the Strike One. The Strike One, which is very similar to the Archon B, but this is one of the originals, and it has some differences to it. It's Italian made, super fast, super flat. I mean, in fact, the Spetsnaz was using some of those and testing them.
Wow.
And it's just an incredible gun. And then I have one of the new Beretta 80Xs coming. So I'm pretty excited about that. I just did the review on the 85, Model 85, and the 84. And I love those guns, but Beretta's now kind of resurrected. So,
I think that's a good thing. Those little guns have almost a cult following.
They're beautiful.
The price has gone up through the roof on those things in the last few years after Beretta discontinued them because so many people like that firearm.
We know they had a lot of police trade-ins coming in from Italian police, and they're usually in really good shape. And that's where I got the 85. It was from Atlantic Firearms, I believe. I just happened, and this is the thing, I got an email saying, Beretta 85, and I clicked on it immediately and got it. And then within just a little while, those things were gone. So great thing about surplus is, on a lot of these guns is used to be, they'd have a big shipment coming in. Now they're coming in small little lots, and they don't last long. And the prices are not anywhere near what they used to be.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, but the value is there. And if that's what you want, it's a good time to grab one.
Yep, for sure. And they're such nice little pistols. They fit your hand well. They point well. Extremely flat shooting. It's like they took a Beretta Model 92 and chopped it down and made it.
They used that machine, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
They did.
Just a little bit. They would go on. They're great little guns. It's really nice to see 380 kind of coming back. We had the Ruger, and we've had a number of different 380 pistols. Well, the Ruger LCP Max. I mean, it's got 10 rounds in that little tiny thing, and it's more shootable. And then, of course, the Ruger Security 380. That's a larger pistol, but great for female shooters, especially. They want to carry something that's effective and gives them a good round capacity with those little bit larger pistols. So I think and those that are just recoil sensitive.
I mean, still one of my personal favorites is the Smith & Wesson EZ 380.
Oh yeah,
that is. And then the SIG P238, another great one. Yes, you're down on magazine capacity a little bit because it's a single stack compared to some of your other 380s that are out there now. But both of those the slides are super easy to rack. They're incredibly accurate.
Well, my mom, that's what she has, a P3 238. And that was one of the big deciding factors because she has some arthritis. I mean, she's now 80 and, pulling that slide back, she could not pull the trigger on a double action revolver or a lot of other guns. So this just gave her a small option. And that slide coming back was really the game changer. But, the EZs, the Smith & Wesson EZs are fantastic.
Yes,
they are. That new equalizer is just awesome.
I can't wait to play with that one.
You need to play with that one.
I'm looking forward to it. So I have a question here from Joey Guerin. He says, I have a Glock 26 Gen 5. Can you do the MOS cut on the slide so I can direct mount the Holosun SCS? Yes, we can. We can mill the slide on that and refinish it and everything. Mount your SCS to it. Backup iron sights. If you want to shoot me an email, Robbie, Robbie, @wheatonarms.com. I can give you all the particulars and details about what you need to do to get that shipped to us and the turnaround and everything.
You do a lot of those.
I do.
He does a lot of those.
I think I've got 35 or 40 to do this week.
Wow.
And more coming in. But
keeps them out of trouble.
It does. It does. It keeps me out of mama's hair. I'm not aggravating her too much. And keeps everybody happy.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Justin Collier, rock on, dude. Can't repeat what you said, but yes, sir. Chris Matthews, did they make an AK magazine vice block for working on an AR hybrid? I have not seen one. You can kind of retro the AR-15, one to it. But I don't know if I would use the AR-15 one to torque buffer tubes and stuff like that. But I really don't know the answer to that. I would probably the first place I would look would be Brownells or Midway USA. If anybody has one, commercially available, it would be one of those two. And then also just your good old Google search and see if any smaller companies offer a Delrin block specifically for those. It may be something that like Century Arms with their Mutant that they may offer a magazine block for that as well for being able to work on it. That CMMG makes the Mutant. Yes, that's right.
And then of course Palmetto State Armory with their KS-47.
I
mean, there are some options that are more popular now. So it could. I remember finding an AK block, and I was like all excited about that. Because blocks are just fantastic to put in a vise and really usable. So, but that was a good question. I haven't heard anything.
That's a stumper on that. On that one.
You got us.
Chris Matthews says, I have a new AR, haven't shot it yet, but noticed after cycling it a few times, it has a pronounced wear streak on top of the receiver. Is this normal for break-in? I realize there can be deviation with tolerances. Yeah, that's pretty normal that you'll see some wear on the inside of the receiver, especially if the gun is dry. One of the first things I do when I get a new AR is I just about soak the inside of the receiver with oil, the charging handle, the inside of the receiver, and then I put about a tablespoon of grease in the buffer tube itself, which does a few things. The grease in the buffer tube, it helps to quieten down the springy sound that you get from the spring in the buffer as it cycles back and forth. It just deadens that. And then it helps to keep everything lubed up for a long time also. And it's kind of a one and done deal. I put it in there, I leave it in there. I don't take it out and clean it or anything. It's just there to stay after that. But wet your bolt carrier group, especially if you get a new AR and you go to cycle it and it sounds all gritty and grindy, like it's got sand or sandpaper in it. The gun's really dry, and that's the anodized finish rubbing against each other. The charging handle especially. The charging handle rubbing inside the upper receiver as you pull it back, and you'll notice there'll be like white streaks on it. And that's where the anodizing is rubbing itself off when you're cycling it. When you put a nice thick coat of oil on there, I like 30 weight synthetic engine oil for cars. It's cheap by the quart, lasts a long time, and works extremely well. It doesn't break down in different environments and stuff, but normally that's what I use in the shop, and that's what I recommend to people also. But soak your charging handle, the inside of the receiver, and then put a light coat on your bolt carrier group as well and cycle it a few times, and all of that scratching and stuff is going to go away.
Yeah, that dry anodizing is just like sandpaper almost. I mean, it's real fine, but yeah, you get that. You know, if you get a DLC coated bolt carrier, it's a little bit better.
Yep.
But yeah, it definitely has a lot.
Yeah,
I hate to hear that.
Yes, it's like, awful. And you know, it's really bad. Like most of us now, we run ambi charging handles on our rifles, or at least an extended charging handle on our rifles. So when you grab that charging handle on one side and rack it, you're kicking the charging handle over to one side a little bit, which makes it drag down one side, and it'll drag on the top as you're pulling it to the rear, or on the bottom as you're pulling it to the rear. And all of that, you know, being off center a little bit intensifies that scratchy sound that you hear. So putting some oil on that will all but completely eliminate it. It'll just sound like nothing. That's just the best way to describe it. That's right. It's a nice sound. Gerald Black says, do you know of anyone in the South Carolina area having backup gun matches? Yeah, backup gun or bug gun matches. Up here in the upstate, the Greenville Gun Club has some of those. The Belton Gun Club has some of those. Those are two right off the top of my head that have bug gun matches. They're generally on the 5th Saturday, so they don't do them every month, but the 4 months out of the year that have a 5th Saturday, they usually do a bug gun match at one of or both of those clubs. Other parts of the state I'm not sure about, but here in the upstate, those are a couple that I know for sure.
Yeah, and going to your local range, a lot of times, you know, they're wanting to generate different things, and so it's a good source.
You know, another one, a lot of your indoor ranges have bug gun matches too. Sharpshooters Indoor Range in Greenville, they have bug gun matches there pretty regularly. So you can hop on their website and look at their calendar, or give those guys a call, and they should be able to point you in the right direction when they're going to have their next bug gun match.
You always got to have your bug gun.
You do. Absolutely. Collie Roberts, Robbie, can I send you my Bull Armory SAS2 TAC 25 comp for review? Yes, you can. I tell you guys, for all the 2011s that are out there, yeah, there's some great companies that are building 2011s, but for the money, the Bull Armory 2011s, I think, are the top of the line. You know, there's within a price range, right? You've got Springfield Armory, you've got Bull Armory, you've got Staccato, and I kind of lump all three of those in there together because price point wise, they're similar to one another. But the stuff from Bull Armory is exceptional. Slide to frame fit is as good as I've seen from custom gun manufacturers. The barrel fit is perfect, right where it's supposed to be. Accuracy is incredible. Triggers out of the box on those guns are as good as any custom pistol you'll ever buy. They're exceptional guns. If you haven't looked at the Bull Armory pistols, I highly recommend those. And I know
but be ready for a wait. I know that
Yeah.
I've got one of the ultralights, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you what, that is the coolest freaking gun. In fact, I'm having a custom holster made for it. But a buddy of mine wanted one, and he called Bull, and I think it's a 2-year wait right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with just customs and getting guns in, but the demand on those guns is through the roof.
Yeah.
Bull Armory makes some of the best for the money.
2011s you can buy.
Just
Absolutely.
phenomenal. And they're just their standard 1911s are excellent. They're just really excellent. So I highly recommend Bull Armory. But that would be a great review.
It would. Yes, it would. Four Stones Handcraft says, any worries about blowback in the face shooting an AR-15 left-handed? And if so, any fix for that besides glasses, of course. Thanks. This is something that I have dealt with pretty much my entire adult life, being left-handed shooting AR-15s. You get a lot of gas out of the ejection port in your right eye when you shoot the gun. It's just the layout of the rifle, how it's designed. Different gunpowders, you get different blowback with different gunpowders. A lot of your military stuff, M193 and M855. Excuse me, my goodness, that was supposed to be gone before we started. But a lot of your gunpowders, M855, M193, to me are some of the worst. You get, I don't know what kind of powder it is, what kind of ball powder it is that they use, but it's like just blowing CS gas in my eyes every time I shoot those things with M855 and M193. It just makes me cry every time I shoot it, even with safety glasses on. Throw a suppressor on, suppressors are even worse. There's all kinds of gas buster charging handles and adjustable gas blocks and gas tubes and gas keys and all kind of stuff you can do to dial back the gas on the gun some. But for us lefties, none of that really helps because we're getting the gas in our eye out of the ejection port and not from other places in the gun. So the best advice that I could give you is, if you reload, try and find a powder that is not quite as acidic, I guess would be maybe the best word for it, that doesn't burn your eye when you get that gas back in your face.
Or maybe, go to buy some different type,
right,
and just see, because, there are definitely cleaner powders,
yes,
that are being used by manufacturers.
PMC Bronze is a good one. That one doesn't gas me really bad. Federal American Eagle, 55 grain stuff works really well. If you reload, Ramshot Tack or Hodgdon Varget are great powders that don't gas you in the face really bad and make you cry. But those would be some recommendations that I have for you. Justin Collier, haha, Canadian here. I run your triggers in both my 19 and 19X. Wouldn't trade an hour anything. Already have your barrel and recoil spring assembly in the 19 with just a polish job and a disconnector. That's awesome, bud. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. And I tell you guys, our triggers are like Doritos. If you got more than one Glock, you cannot buy just one of our triggers. No. I promise you, you will. You get that first one, you're going to be back on the phone calling and ordering more. Those things are incredible.
They are. They're the best aftermarket Glock trigger on the market, bar none. I mean, they're just fantastic. Now, have you tried the new Glock trigger they've been?
I have not.
I haven't either. I haven't been able to get one yet.
I saw one of my distributors had them in stock today.
Oh.
But I was shocked at the sticker price for basically an OEM trigger. Yeah. I didn't even look at what retail was, but their wholesale prices are about the same as our wholesale prices. So I'm guessing the retail prices are about the same as well.
Wow, for just an OEM trigger.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some good things, but I haven't had a chance yet. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's definitely one that I want to try out and see what the differences are, other than just a little plastic flat shoe that they did. Justin Collier, in each 2.5-3 pounds all day long, safe, no springs molested. Yeah, and that's for me. If I'm doing a trigger job on a pistol for someone, the one spring that I don't like to replace in a Glock, especially striker fired pistols, is the striker spring. The striker spring, you have to have that inertia to be able to reliably ignite your primers. And there's guys, I know guys that run 2.5 pound striker springs in their gun, and they complain when they get a light primer strike. And I'm like, there's your sign. You know, you got to have more recoil. You got to have more striker spring strength than that for reliability, especially if you're using mixed primers and stuff. If you're just shooting federal primers are a little bit softer, and you can always run a little lighter spring with those, you know, to cut a few. But the striker spring, you're only losing a few ounces off your trigger pull anyway. It's not a significant amount. So stick with the stock 6-pound striker spring in your gun for reliability. Change out the trigger components, the bar, the shoe, the connector, the trigger return spring. And that's going to give you a great trigger pull with a short reset. And you're still going to have the reliability that, you know, we all come to expect with our Glocks. Four Stones Handcraft says, thanks. I'm thinking of making a deflector out of Kydex. That'll be interesting. You have to send me some pictures of it after you get it made. I'd like to see that. And Desert 1776. As a lefty, I bought a Stag Arms AR-15. So nice not having the casings fly out on the left side and not across my face.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, a lot of people love the Stag left-handed eject rifles. I am not one of them.
Really?
Not one of them. No, I am so left eye dominant that, and I shoot both eyes open, whether I'm using optics or red dot or iron sights. I shoot both eyes open. But for me, I'm so left eye dominant that with a left-hand eject rifle, my eye picks up the brass every time it comes out, and it's distracting to me. But when I'm with a right-hand eject rifle, I never see it. I never see it when it comes out the right side. Now I can shift my focus and look to the right side and see it, but if I'm looking through the optic, I never see the brass.
Oh, wow.
I never see it coming out of a shotgun. I never see it coming out of a pistol.
Wow.
But anything that ejects out the left side, as soon as it comes out, I see that thing tumbling as soon as it comes out. And it's like, hey, what's that? Hey, what's
squirrel.
That? Yeah, exactly.
A brass squirrel.
Yeah. You know, how am I supposed to be engaging a bunch of targets, you know, to a 3-gun match or something?
But you're not getting the gas in your face.
You're not getting the gas in your face. That is a benefit. That is a benefit.
I have a friend of mine that has one, and lefty, and he loves it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's definitely a good option to keep that gas out, unless you're a little bit, you know, OCD.
Yeah. But you know, one thing that I would recommend with the lefty Stag is get you a spare bolt for your rifle. That way, if anything happens to it, your bolt breaks, it cracks, whatever, you've got a backup for it, because you can't just walk into any store and be able to buy an extra bolt for that rifle. So I would pick up a spare one of those. Old Soldier says, Robbie, when are you bringing out your 320 trigger? We've got our spring kits out already for the 320s that will reduce your trigger pull weight anywhere from down to 1.5 pounds to 4 pounds, depending on which combination of springs you use in your pistol. And we are still working on our new trigger shoe. We're redesigning some of the geometry on the shoe for some safety reasons that we've identified. But as soon as we get the geometry nailed down like we want it, we'll be releasing that one. But spring kits are available now on WheatonArms.com.
That'll be popular.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I tell you, I've been playing with my 320s a lot lately.
Yeah.
And really, really like them.
Yeah.
Really like them. I did one of our spring kits on a 365 the other day.
Oh. And
had a 2-pound trigger on a 365 with the stock shoe, and you know, real short reset and everything. It was impressive.
Wow, that's
impressive.
A hair trigger.
Yeah. But you know, that's most of my guns are like that. Yeah. But that's what I shoot all the time, and it's what I'm used to. And a 4-pound trigger feels heavy to me.
Right.
You know, it's not that I can't shoot it fast or can't shoot it accurately. It just, I always feel that wall when it hits it, and there's a stopping point that, you know, it always stops right before I break the shot, and it's a little bit distracting. I'm a little bit of a princess when it comes to my triggers. You know, I'm not gonna lie about it. I am a trigger snob. You know, anybody that's ever used one of our triggers will attest to that.
That's true enough.
Yes, he is a trigger snob, but yeah, I like a good trigger in all of my guns, rifles, shotguns, pistols. I like a good trigger, and you know, 2.5 pounds is kind of what I shoot for in all of them.
Right.
I like that consistency across the board. If I pick one up and shoot it, I get the same pull weight. You know, if it's a rifle or pistol or whatever, it all feels the same. So it just transitions well for me.
2-pound trigger though is a little bit hair trigger for me. I like it. I like it about 4. I mean, as far as optimum, just for me, just for shooting it. But yeah, but it's nice though.
Yeah. And my carry triggers are a little heavier. I'm about 3.5 on my carry triggers, but anything that's not a carry gun has got about a 2-pound trigger in it.
Especially competitive shooting, and make it sweet.
It does. Yes, it does. Desert 1776 asks, 45 Stones Handcraft. My Beretta CX4 Storm 9mm is also a favorite because it's ambi and I switch the ejector port to the left side.
That's kind of cool, though. There are firearms that you can switch that. You know, they've come out with a number of different ones. So
a lot of your bullpups now,
right,
or you're able to swap those from side to side. So I'm a big fan of that, being able, especially with a bullpup, to move that ejection port out the left side instead of the right side.
Yeah, and even charging handles and things. I mean, there's a lot of different options that are coming out. It makes it really, really user friendly. And two, sometimes you're right-handed. You may want to keep that ejection port or the charging handle on the right side.
That's right.
It's a lot of preference.
It is. A lot of that is personal preference, what the individual user likes, what they want their gun to feel like. And, it's like the Springfield Hellion. That rifle is designed, you can do right-hand eject or left-hand eject, but one of the nice features is it has a shell deflector on it. So if you have to go weak side or strong side with it, yet the shell deflector still kicks the brass away from you so it doesn't hit you in the mouth.
Right.
And,
that always helps.
If you've ever shot a bullpup and had that brass fly out and hit you in the mouth, it hurts. Yeah, been there, done that, and got the T-shirt for it. So, but it's nice that Springfield thought about that and incorporated a shell deflector in it. So if you do have to go weak side or strong side with it, the brass is still kicked away from you. That was a nice feature I liked with that. I think it's the only bullpup that I've shot that actually has a shell deflector on it that keeps the brass out of your face.
Yeah, they're great guns.
Yep. Chris Matthews says there's been some talk about the new SIG service rifle being compatible with current AR-10 lowers. Is there any truth to this? Short answer is I don't know. I have yet to get my hands on one of those and play with it. So I don't know if there's any kind of cross compatibility with the uppers or anything yet. I am very interested in the new round that they developed, especially with the pressures that they're saying that the cartridge is capable of. I look at like our 5.56 that the military uses right now in the M4 platform. It generates 45,000 psi. Just for a round number, it might be 48 or 52, but it's about 45,000, 50,000 psi that cartridge generates. The new SIG cartridge is supposed to generate in excess of 100,000 psi. That is a ton of pressure that cartridge is producing, and that pressure is going to create heat, which is also going to create barrel wear.
Right.
So I'm really curious to see, with the kind of pressures that they're talking about, this new cartridge is going to get, what barrel life or service life of the barrels are going to be with that round.
Well, the recoil is more excessive than, that was one of the big things, being able to really handle, especially multiple rounds being fired. We'll see. Yeah,
that's there's still a lot of what ifs with that round and with that rifle, that a lot of questions that still are yet to be answered. So I'd love to be able to get my hands on one, the ammunition, and do like a long-term torture test with it to see what kind of barrel life you would get before you start seeing a degradation in accuracy. But SIG hadn't offered to ship me one in 20,000 rounds yet. So just saying, SIG, if you're watching, hey, I'll send you my number.
SIG will be right on that.
I'm sure they will. Kylie Roberts. Robbie, I spoke with you in detail on the phone about Bull Armory last year. I was getting impatient waiting on one to come available and was going to purchase a P80. You told me to be patient. Yeah, I would be patient on one of those. It's worth the wait. They're a lot of if you do some searching online, you can find them online. I had a customer call me last week from North Carolina, and one of his dealers up there had two of the lightweight ones like you've got.
Wow.
In stock.
Wow.
And he bought both of them.
I don't blame him.
He was like, I'll end up selling one of them more than likely. He was like, but the price was good and I couldn't pass them up. So I picked up both of them.
Those things are awesome.
Yep. Kylie Roberts. Now I have the SAS2 TAC 4.25 comp, 3.25 SAS2 ultralight comp, and Bull Armory Commander. It's worth the wait, isn't it? you stuck it out, waited, and got them. And I remember talking to you about it after you got one of them, and you were telling me how impressed you were with it, that it was a great recommendation. So that's, guys, you won't go wrong with the Bull Armory. They are incredible pistols. Incredible pistols. What you've been playing with any new optics lately?
I did have the Burris. What was that? The Eliminator 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is a pretty phenomenal scope.
Yeah.
And we worked on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the push of a button.
Yep.
It range finds right there in your reticle, and it tells you how far the distance is, and it's right on it. And it was funny because we had steel set up, 100, 200, 300 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I really would like to have gotten it out farther.
Yeah.
But when you put it on the steel, I mean, it came up the exact yardage.
Mm-hmm.
And then you build in the bullet coefficient, so it gives you the bullet drop. It gives you everything right there.
Yeah.
And then that little handheld, because you can hit a button on the side of the scope, or you can just hit that little.
The first one they came out with just had the button on the side of the scope, and it was kind of difficult to get to it and depress it and keep the rifle lined up on the target.
Yeah.
So you're always shifting stuff around, trying to get it there and press that button. So it was really nice to see that handheld button to be able to click it, because then you're not disturbing the rifle or your shooting position to be able to range your target.
Well, when I first got it, I was like, Lord have mercy, this thing's going to be complicated. Yeah. It's like, I got what is this? It was like, what the heck? And I'd heard good things about their original series. So, I was really excited. But then you've got to figure out, your ammunition, the bullet coefficient, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, good night. I got on their website. You go to one place and you were just clicking, and it would took about 5 minutes or less.
Yeah.
It's like click, click, click. Oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's programmed. And so it's just a really cool optic. And I think Burris has really kind of stepped it up on a lot of their different optics like that. So I've just been having that. Now, again, Primary Arms guys for a medium price, or medium quality scope. They're not the super high end. They are making those some really nice premium glass.
They are. I actually got an email from them this morning about some pre-orders that are available on some new glass that they're getting ready to release, some premium stuff they're getting ready to release.
It's really good. But I think the Platinum series, it rivals about anything, honestly. But the prices on the Platinums though get up to about $1,000.
Right.
So it's not an inexpensive investment, but
it's still half the price of like a Vortex Razor.
Yeah, or Steiner or whatever. You start getting up to those.
Yeah, Loophole Mark Fives.
Right,
you're still half the price of any of that. So it's still, when you put it into comparison with a lot of the other premium optics that are out there, it's still a heck of a value.
Right. So I'm a big fan, and too, Holosun as far as red dots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are taking over the freaking market, and one of the things about it is like your SIG sights.
Mm-hmm.
They're made by Holosun.
Yeah.
Even your Primary Arms red dots are made by Holosun. Holosun is really, I had a buddy of mine that came over to the house last night, and he had one of the Glock 47s, and he had one of the Holosun, I think it was maybe the 507K, or it was one of the new ones, the real thin ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was so flush with the slide.
That's the SCS.
Yes, it is. It is the SCS. And it was just, it looked just like it perfectly fit on that gun.
Mm-hmm. Cocking serrations made into the side of it.
Cocking serrations on the mount. So, and it was a direct mount
for the MLS cut.
No plates or anything, and that's one bane for those is getting those polymer plates or whatever they can pop. Snap.
Well, and that sight is thin enough that you can use the OEM sights with it. You don't have to have taller suppressor height sights, which I thought was a really, really nice feature with that. You're able to use your OEM sights, OEM height sights, so you don't have to get a funky holster that's got a big sight tunnel.
Yeah, and I don't, the one thing about it with especially concealed carry, when I'm carrying, I like it to be as trim and slim and just balanced. And I mean, sometimes I have the suppressor height sights, on certain ones, but honestly, it's kind of like, ugh. But, it does give you that option to be able to co-witness with a lot of your other sites. But
well, there's a lot of different options with co-witness sites as well. You've got your, what they call a lower 1/3, which are only about 80 thousandths or so taller than the factory height sights.
Right.
So they're, not huge and obtrusive like a lot of them. And then you've got your 1/2 co-witness, which basically brings your iron sights up to the center your lens on your sight, and those can be 500 or 550 thousandths tall, over a half an inch tall on your front sight. And I always tend to stay away from that. I want something that's low, unobtrusive, stays out of the way. It's there if I need it, but it's just kind of resting down there in the bottom third of the lens and not blocking any of my field of view or anything.
Right. But if you're pulling on a suppressor, it's according to the diameter of the suppressor. So, there's some factors there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beautiful thing is there are so many options.
They are.
I mean,
yep.
Guys, I say this a lot, we live in the golden age of firearms, and a lot of people are like, well, ain't nothing changed really. Ain't nothing. Yeah. I mean, it is the incremental changes. It takes time.
It does.
It's like Glock, every time I bring a Glock out, like even the Gen 5, it was like, they're not innovative. It's the iPhone and blah, 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 blah. And, the fact is there were 38 changes to the Gen 5 from the Gen 4
yep.
internally. And so, they're doing things, but, I was at PSA the other day. It was a couple of weeks ago, and one of the managers came up and he goes, there ain't no new innovation. There ain't no. And I was like, well, the Smith & Wesson, their new 5.7
mm-hmm.
and that barrel, that tempo barrel system is like cool. And then the Rock Island Armory, that holds that 5.0. My gosh,
mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we talked to Fred Craig, had a great conversation. And there's a lot more coming. So I think, if you see something drastic, it typically is a flash in the pan
mm-hmm.
because it hasn't really been tested. It's just those incremental. It's kind of like music. When music comes out, and then they'll be inspired by a little bit different music. And before long, you have a whole nother genre of music, but it was all inspired. And I think it's the same thing with guns.
We think about red dot sights. The perfect example. Back in the 90s, you had the Tasco Pro Point.
Yeah.
Early 90s Tasco Pro Point, and then Seymour came out with their Railway, which was really the first handgun mounted sight that was durable enough to survive, tens of thousands of rounds on a handgun.
Right.
But it was big. I mean, the Seymour was huge. I mean, it's like 4 inches long.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of guys that shoot USPSA and 3-gun in open division today that still use that sight because it's so robust and durable. And people, cross compatible, they use it on ARs and other things for backup sites as well. But, that was the early 90s. Now here we are 30 years later, and our red dots have progressed to the point that you can bolt them straight to the slide and they're survivable. They'll run for tens of thousands of rounds.
Right.
Speaking of, I finally had to replace the battery in my Holosun on my everyday carry.
Oh, really?
Week. Yep. Yeah. I pull it out and check it every now and then. And I pulled it out and looked at it, and I've got one of the ACSS reticles in it from Primary Arms, and it's got a little chevron and then the big circle. Well, I pulled it out and looked at it, and I couldn't see the big circle. And I was like, where's my big circle at? So I'm pushing all these, I thought I'd poked a button somewhere and turned it off or whatever. So I'm pushing all these buttons on it and everything, and nothing. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and now this thing, it's got the solar panel to charge it on top, but it stays in the dark most of the time.
Right. Well, even when you're carrying it, you got it under your shirt.
Under my shirt, or it's in the console of the car, the glove compartment of the car, or nightstand or whatever. But it spends more time in the dark than it does in the light. And got it out in the sunlight, and after about 5 minutes or so, the circle started coming back. And as soon as I got back where it was kind of darker, it went away again.
That solar was picking it up.
Yep. And it did. So I was like, all right, and that thing's probably 3 years old.
Wow.
At least.
Wow.
So I stuck a new battery in it, and it was good to go again. I was like, okay, so now I know like a 3-year window is about what I get out of it with it staying in the dark all the time and not being charged.
But it's important, checking that. But also, one thing about concealed carry is you get lint.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just get it's clothes, it's that dust from and you pull it out, it looks like somebody put baby powder in there, and it's like, what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
And keep making sure that you maintain those, because a lot of times if you're carrying a concealed carry, and I'm guilty of this, is I get at night, I get ready to put my stuff away, take my belt off, take the gun, don't even get it out of the holster, stick it in my place for my guns. And then, the next day, pick it up in the holster, stick it on my belt, and go.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's always good to do a check, and you just need to get into that routine.
That's right.
And looking for your red dot, looking to make sure the safety's on, if you're wearing, like right now, I've got one of the Smith & Wesson CSX, you know, where, you know, I know you did a little work on the trigger on that one.
Yeah.
You know, the trigger wasn't all that great. And Robbie actually, when he had it for review, he fixed it. So I've been carrying it. I just love it. You know, I don't know what it is about it.
It's a nice shooting little pistol.
It really is. And, but, you know, the thing is sometimes there was one day at night I came in and I cleared the gun, which I don't typically do. And when I racked the slide, there was not a round in the chamber. All day I was going without a round in the chamber, which, you know, okay, I could have racked it, but I was thinking there was a round in the chamber. And for some reason, you know, I had taken the round out. And so, you know, it's just good. You just sometimes never know. So it's really good to do that press check.
A little sanity check just to make sure. Absolutely. And, you know, it's like I got a can of compressed air in my desk drawer. And, you know, I'll once a week or so, if I'm in the office, I'll pull it out, blow it out with the compressed air just to blow the lint out of it. Or if I'm at the shop, you know, I'll get the airline and just blow it out with the airline just to blow the dust out of it. But it's a quick and easy clean, you know, just to blow your optic out and blow the dust out of the gun itself and then back in the holster.
Yeah, I use those too because those things are great. But, you know, it's funny. I had a buddy of mine that he let me borrow one of his pistols one time for a review. And I was doing a number of really small 380s. And he had been carrying this thing, I know, 2 or 3 years. And he said, "Nate, I'll let you borrow it." And I said, "Okay, great." And it was a little Kel-Tec P380. And went down to the range with it. And I had the other ones, started to shoot it, got one round, the thing just jammed. And I was like, "What the heck?" Did it again, jammed. I looked at it. It was full of lint. I told him later, I said, "Dude, if you would have had to have used this, you would have been in trouble."
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was funny because he mentioned something. This has been about 3 or 4 years ago. And he mentioned something to me the other day about it. But, you know, it's, you know, because he said, "Man, I really need to check that." So make sure you just check, especially if you're carrying one pistol a lot, is take time to just stop and check it out. And some of you guys, though, I mean, I know you clear your weapon, you check it, you clean it every time. I mean, but, you know, some of us guys don't do that.
No. And, you know, I carry a lot of different pistols. And, you know, I'm like a woman with her pocketbooks. You know, I'll get up and just feel like I want a different flavor that day and grab a different one to carry. And, you know, so I'm not relying on that one pistol that I carry every single day. So a lot of times I don't get that lint buildup that you would because I rotate my stuff out so much and carry so many different guns. But, you know, if I was carrying one gun all day, every day, that thing would get checked once a week. Everything would get blown out. And
well, it's funny for me. I get into the rhythms and like I was carrying a Springfield Armory EMP 9mm, 9 or 10 rounds or 9 rounds, I think, in the magazine. You know, it's a little bit larger pistol. I was carrying that thing for a while. I was carrying the SIG P365 XL for a long time. And so, you know, it's like all of a sudden I'll go, "I'm going to try this." And I'll end up carrying it just like this CSX. I've been carrying it now for about a month every day. And I'll get ready. And I have like a number of different concealed carry options, you know, in my I have a little place. But I have this place, you know, set out. And sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to do this. You know, I came across my CZ Rammy a while back. And I was like, I started carrying it, you know, just out of nowhere. So, but, you know, again, a lot of you guys carry, you know, one gun. It's the gun you depend on. There's some consistency that really makes it a smart move in some ways. As far as Robbie and I, we shoot so much and so many different guns already. So, you know, I can carry a Glock G43X and carry it and then switch to the CSX with the safety and be able to deal with it because we deal with so many guns.
And, you know, like with me, I've carried 1911s or 1911 style pistols for, you know, going on 30 years now.
Right.
And my natural draw stroke when the pistol comes out of the holster is to swipe down for the safety. And it doesn't matter if I carry a Glock or if I carry a 1911 or whatever. When the pistol comes out of the holster, the way my thumbs naturally go, they naturally push down on the side of the slide where the safety would be.
Right.
And
but you remember
habit.
When we did, it was one of the first videos we did.
I do remember.
And we were doing some training, and I just decided for some reason I was going to bring the Beretta,
the Model 92,
the Model 92F.
Yep.
And so, you know, when you hit that decocker, it not only just decocks, it puts it on safety.
That's right.
So every time you draw it, you've got to disengage the safety. Man, I had so much trouble with that. And getting the G safety that automatically goes is definitely a plus. But I think I actually had the F, and they didn't make it for the G or whatever. And it was very eye-opening. And in fact, I was at a gun shop the next week, and a guy was looking at an I2F, and he was talking to the guy. And after they talked for a few minutes, I just came up because he was looking at a couple of different guns, and I said, "Let me just say this: if you're going to get this, train to disengage that safety."
That's right.
I said, "That's the only thing about that one," and it's lessons learned.
It is, and luckily it was a lesson learned on a square range and not in real life.
Right. You pick that thing up and click, click, click. Yeah. And your brain kind of goes dead. Then you go dead.
Yep, that's right.
Possibly.
Exactly right. Couple other questions. Have me or Sootch had a chance to try out Maven optics?
I have not tried I have a pair of their binoculars, and they are excellent. They are well made. They're excellent clear glass. I mean, they're just good. They're good optics. And I've had those for probably 5-6 years.
Yeah, so, I have not played with any of their optics, so I can't give you an opinion on those.
From what I experienced, the glass anyway is really clear. They're very sturdy. Believe me, I can tear it up.
So I got a message from our good friend, Mr. River. He says, "Hi, gents, 30 days to the gathering." So if those of you are out there and not familiar with that, Palmetto State Armory is hosting an event at Clinton House called The Gathering in about a month from now. And Don and I will both be there, and look forward to meeting a bunch of you that we get to talk to on here. But it'll be a great event. A lot of vendors there, a lot of live fire, so you can shoot a lot of different guns, kind of a try it before you buy it type deal. You'll be able to see a lot of the guns that were released at SHOT Show that maybe haven't hit the shelves yet, and you'll get a chance to be able to try those out. But it's just a great weekend to go out and experience some good times with some great people and play with a lot of new and innovative firearms that are coming to the industry right now.
Well, they have everybody there. Glock's there. Palmetto State Armory, they have all their stuff laid out. SIG, IWI. I mean, everybody. I think the only company that didn't have a range bay was Ruger. I don't think they were there. But Smith & Wesson, everyone. In fact, I got to shoot the new FN high power there.
Yes.
And that's the only time I've ever seen one, and the only time I've ever shot one. So, but it's like $40 for a day. And I think if you do the 2 days, it's March 24th and 25th. And they have some food trucks.
Incredible
food. I mean, and so you get to shoot. I mean, you walk up there and they'll say, "What do you want to shoot?" You can shoot it. They don't charge you to shoot. So you pay this fee, and then you just shoot as much as you want to, or as much as you can, you know. And so it is definitely well worth it. And again, the vendors, there's a lot of different vendors.
That's
there.
right.
So it's like SHOT Show, range day at SHOT Show for some, for just regular people, just everybody,
non-industry people.
Non-industry
That's exactly
people.
Right. And
it's March 24th and 25th. We're going to be there, and Dave Rivers going to be there, and a lot of other people. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, Kevin Ramsey commented, said he's accomplished a minor miracle. His wife is coming with him to the gathering. So, hey, we look forward to seeing you guys there.
That is awesome.
And it's we actually ran over. It's a little after 1 o'clock. So, hey guys, it is. Can you believe it? Hey, he and I are just getting started. All right, this was just our warm up.
Oh yeah, we could talk here for 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
So, but we'd put you guys to sleep.
Yeah. But thank you guys very much for stopping by. I hope you really enjoyed the live. Make sure that you share this with your friends. This will be every Monday going forward from 12 o'clock to 1 Eastern Standard Time. So make sure if you got friends out there that love guns as much as we do, and as much as you do, that you share it with them. And let's see if we can grow our channel a little bit. But until next time, see you guys next Monday at 12. Y'all have a great week.